So I'm here with Bob Paré from Kix. Bob, how's it going?
Very well, thank you. How about yourself?
I'm doing pretty well. Had a
Good.
not so long day at school, so now I'm ready to do this. So you've had a couple weeks off from the road. It's been after a busy couple months, starting with the Monsters of Rock cruise. How have you been spending the downtime?
Well, we had a couple weeks off. Easter was a good weekend.
Yeah.
I think we had pretty good weather. This past weekend, we were off and we had amazing weather. So I got to go to my vacation house and hang out by the fire pit, which if people know me, they know that I like to just sit around the fire pit, look at stars and hang out with the family. And so, yeah, and gearing up, resting and getting ready for this week. And
Yeah.
obviously M3 coming up. So we're gearing up for that.
Well, that's my next thing. Yeah, we're about less than 2 weeks away from
Yeah,
definitely Kix's biggest show of the year, headlining the M3 festival in your guys' hometown of Maryland. So how are you
yeah.
feeling heading into it?
Good. I think we're ready. We're planning we're shaking the set list up a little bit. Uh
Mm.
it is um it's the actual 37th anniversary, but I think the 35th anniversary of Midnight Dynamite, um, the relit um, record. So because of COVID, the band was not really allowed to or permitted to celebrate that record live,
Yeah.
like they wanted to. So we're going to do a little string of the good stuff from Midnight Dynamite, and hopefully the fans will like it.
That's awesome. So is that going to be in the set list going forward after M3? All that?
We've been doing quite a bit off that record. I think so. It's the fans have really responded well to it. So, um, you know, it's a great record.
Yeah.
And it's just really good songs, and the response has been great. We've been having a blast playing it.
So you obviously being from around the Maryland area, how is it for you to get to play this huge gig right near where you grew up?
Right. Well, fortunately, I got to play last year, which it
Yeah.
was delayed until July 4th weekend last year. So it was a lot of fun. And things are so hectic that you don't really have time to think about it. And um, playing in front of people doesn't bother me. The band is playing really well. Everybody's doing their job. Uh, it is a great venue. It's 25 minutes from my house, and we all live relatively close to each other. Um, this year, I'm looking forward to it because I know what to expect. Last year,
Yeah.
I was still pretty green, and I wasn't sure exactly what the protocols were, and so I'm looking forward to it this year a lot.
So is M3 the biggest show that you play with Kicks?
Um, I don't know. I mean, in terms of well, the fact that Kix is headlining and that most of the people there are to see Kix
Yeah.
makes it pretty big. And those guys have been doing it for so long, and I'm beyond blessed to be able to do that with them. Um, we played in front of a lot of people. Uh, Gettysburg Bike Week is another huge local
Yeah.
event that we did last year, and that was great. There may have been more people there at Gettysburg. I don't know, but M3 is just I mean, there's so many talented people and other bands, and everybody's so great. Sullivan Big has you know uh, a really good awareness of what the crowd's looking for, and I think we have Lizzie Borden and Doro playing with us on that Friday, so we're
Yeah.
expecting a good crowd, and the lineup got shaken up a little bit this year, and I think the crowd is going to get a good show. I really do.
So a lot of the gigs that you mentioned, they are more northeast centered. How is it for you when you get to travel for gigs? I saw you guys on the Monsters of Rock cruise. You guys are playing Monsters on the Mountain in August.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, what are you going to say? The brand of Kix has got a tremendous following.
Yeah.
The songs are, great. The band is, I don't have to speak about the iconic, status of the band. So when we played Denver last year, uh, tremendous feedback, great crowd. Recently, we were at the Whiskey, and I mean that was a good, bucket list item for me to play
Yeah.
with Kix at the Whiskey, and we had sellout crowd, and the band was on fire. We did really well. And the guys from Faster Pussycat came out to visit us, and a bunch of guys, and it was just a blast. So even down in Texas, Florida, it's amazing for me how many people sing the lyrics back to you when you're playing these songs. And I'm in a faraway place. It could be Fargo, North Dakota, or anywhere out west. It's not just here. It's a really neat thing
Yeah.
to see people light up when they hear their favorite song, and for me to play, I'm just on autopilot. I'm just feeding off the crowd, and gosh, it's an incredible thing. It really is.
Yeah. So now going back a lot, were you always in the Maryland area? You grew up there?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, yeah. We're all kind of in the central Maryland, Western Maryland. We're not far from the mountains. We're not far from the beach. Yeah, and it's made it real convenient.
Yeah.
Especially when we were recording Steve's solo record, You Were Welcome, during the pandemic. There wasn't a whole lot to do, and Brad Divins' studio wasn't too far, so it was super convenient. We had nothing else to do. We made a hell of a record.
Yeah. I have the vinyl over there. It's awesome.
Nice, nice. I'm
So,
glad you like it.
yeah. So what was the first time that you had heard of the band Kix?
Oh boy. So, uh, you know, I'm a couple years younger, but I would say there used to be field parties. We used to have these things called field parties back in the day. And I remember seeing them somewhere in this area. It was in Maryland. And not really knowing a lot. I was younger. I was probably in middle school, or maybe just getting ready to start high school, I think. And a friend of mine, his name is Glenn Wolf, who works at Taylor Guitars out in California. He had the first record, and I think that may have been the only one that was out at that time, and was turning me on to him, along with a lot of other really great bands. He had an older brother that had some really cool records, and Kix was one of them. And so I would say, it was probably around 81, 82, 81.
And so were you playing guitar at that time?
Yep. Oh yeah. 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 I've been playing guitar uh like 45 years now.
All right.
Yeah, so I've been playing guitar, and they were right there. Our influences are very similar. The
Yeah.
Obviously the Beatles and the Stones and Aerosmith and all those. For me, it was some of the early 80s bands like Riot, and gosh, there were so many, of course, Rush, uh, but a lot of just rock guitar stuff. So that's what I was playing. I was playing in cover bands, and we were playing parties and fire halls and talent shows and things like that. And so, I just remember hearing that first record, just thinking, wow, it's really cool. They're from here. They're
Yeah.
they're local, which was, that's pretty rare. I mean, there's some great talent that comes from this area. A lot of those people claim to be from somewhere else, but you know what? I'll never forget the first time I heard the band on record, where it just, it was raw rock and roll, very similar to a lot of the first time you hear a good band or good record,
Yeah.
for me, like the Pretenders, or any of that stuff, where it wasn't perfect, and that's what made it so cool. Knowing that now, I mean, that's what I really missed that.
And so were Brian and Ronnie's playing at all an influence on you?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, uh, there's nothing. I mean, those guys are so they have such great characteristics to their playing. And it's evolved over the years. I mean, I've got
Yeah.
to study the forensics of Kix, and obviously with my position with the band, I had to really study the DNA of Ronnie. And it's clear who their influences are. And I've watched both of them, especially Brian, really evolve over the years, where I can see his influences really coming in, his maturity, um, his style of playing. He's still Brian, and Ronnie's
Yeah.
still Ronnie, and they still do what they do. But they've been evolving like we all do. I mean, I don't play the same way that I did 35, 40 years ago, but you let those influences kind of penetrate through you, and technical things like vibrato and things like that. They just evolved over the last years. But those guys, yeah, absolutely. Especially being from around here, you're
Yeah.
you were kind of they were on the radio, which if you wanted to be on the radio, you had to kind of emulate what everybody else was doing, and that was tough to do through the '80s because of all the kind of the shredder rock that was out there. But those guys stayed true to themselves, and man, nothing but mad respect. I mean, just yeah, huge influence.
And so I want to take a quick detour because you had mentioned Rush as an influence. How is it for you now to get to, obviously with the Sun Dogs, go up on stage and play Rush?
Yeah, so that's a whole nother thing. We call that
Yeah.
math rock, and we have a little saying. It's trust the math, and Alex Lifeson, a huge influence. Now, I was really influenced by Alex's earlier the earlier records where he was, playing through Marshalls and high watts, and the traditional rock tube amps with Gibson ES 355, 335s, that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. Really, um, that his sound really influenced me, and the way they recorded and layered the tracks and things like that to make that really thick chorus thing. That was a big deal. That was one of the first effects I think I bought maybe in the early '80s, was a chorus pedal, trying to get that sound. But fast forward through their catalog, I mean, they've done so many things in their 40-year career. It was it became real evident to me when Mark asked me to join on April 11th, 2020, that I didn't really know the challenge until I really got into it. And those guys, like I said, math rock. There's a lot of counting. It's
Yeah.
mentally fatiguing. Technically, it is what it is. But the precision and the time signatures and things like that, it pushed me to become a better guitar player, which is difficult to do over the age of 50, because you know we're not as good as we once were. And so I accepted that challenge when Mark called, and of course it's been nothing but fun. It's such a good time.
And so how has playing in that band changed kind of how you play in Kicks? Is it, mess with any solos or anything just to add some fun stuff or?
No, they're completely, the clothes are different. My
Yeah.
guitar vault is different. I use fractal uh, modeling. I do my own programming and everything's like that. There are, for me, there are no two common denominators between those bands. It's a whole different hat completely.
All right, so now we're gonna shift back to Kicks. What was the first time that you played a show where you were opening for the guys in Kicks?
Oh, geez. Well, in the early '80s, Yeah, even in the mid 80s, I played in a band called Forcer, which was a PG County, Maryland based, really good all original band. And we played a couple covers. God, I couldn't tell you when, but there was a bunch of these metal fests, they were called, in Southern Maryland. And the first one that I distinctly remember was being direct support for Kix at a place called Wilmer's Park. I think it was in Brandywine, Maryland. And thousands of people, lots of Budweiser, and then of course Shiley Acres here in West Virginia. That's like the hometown gig for those guys. So yeah, I got to play with them way back. Uh, and I mean, it's some of those shows I'll never forget. I mean, it's
Yeah.
they had so much, and they still do. There's the fans are so loyal, and I mean, it's incredible because I saw how loyal they were in 1985, and I see that same, the same people were all a little more, mature, but I see the same love for that and the music. It's the music.
Yeah, well, let's talk about the fan base for a second because it's obviously it's such a tight knit group. Did that make it any easier for you coming in as a replacement like player, being accepted with those open arms?
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't really know what to expect, and I didn't really think about it. You know, initially, my first priority was just to play the music.
Yeah,
My job is to emulate the record as best as I can, and I don't deviate from it. I don't go off on tangents as far as, I play pretty much what either Brad or Ronnie did on the record. Um, and I try to make sure that you know, so my first priority was let's focus on that. And with all that happening, I didn't have time to think about acceptance. But by coincidence, uh, the first couple shows that we did were here locally, and I have a band called Everrise that it's got a pretty good local following here. And so a lot of folks knew of Everrise, and so I had a lot of Everrise people at the Kix shows that I was playing with Kix. And man, it just spread like, of course, the word spread quick. And man, it was so positive. And it wasn't until about 4 or 5 shows into it where I started to go, wow, I'm not getting any negativity, which is really cool. I'm,
yeah.
the fans are just so good. And all over the country, I've had so many people come up to me and just say, man, dude, you're doing a great job, blah, blah, blah. And I'm working my ass off. Now
Yeah,
I'm
for
starting
sure.
to I'm starting to have a lot of fun now because I've been doing it now for about a year, and we played this set or the sets and most of these songs for a good bit, and going out there hustling 1, 2 times a week. I'm starting to really enjoy and starting to know exactly how my influence has affected the band's chemistry on stage, and I think it's been pretty good, and the crowd's reacting to that. And so I never really worried about expectations or anything like that. I just do what I do, and it is what it is. And again, it's about the music. So if the music is good, the band is playing well, um, man, there's no complaints.
Perfect. So you had mentioned chemistry. Was it at all difficult to build that up, or was it just kind of naturally there from knowing them for a long time?
Well, yeah, I mean, no, it's not difficult. First of all, each one of these guys are angels.
Yeah.
They're so easy to work with. Yeah, there's just not enough time to say all the good things. Um, I also know my role, and part of the my job was to be able to figure out my role and not um, step on anything that, be in the right place at the right time kind of thing. And they make it too easy. I mean, they make it so easy for me. But I had to, I learned and seeing the band for eons, I knew
Yeah.
what to do and what to what they expect. And you just do your job. And but no, to answer your question, in my opinion, no, it was too easy. I mean, they're so easy to work with.
So you had talked about playing with the guys since the 80s and just various opening gigs. When did you really start to form a bond with them that obviously led to them to asking you?
Mm, well, I guess, Mark Schenker and I, we talked quite a bit. Um, Probably beginning in like 2015, somewhere in there. And we have Rick Parks up at the Maryland Institute of Music in Hagerstown. We have a lot of mutual friends, so we teach. Jimmy and Steve taught there, and I taught there. And I would say beginning in 2015 ish, Mark and I really started to bond. We like to talk about uh, geeky things, planets and stars and solar systems, and as well as computer stuff. And I guess it was around then, around 2017 in the spring, I was put on alert to, possibly fill in for Ronnie. He was having some trouble. And I was, I'm friends with Ronnie as well. And we spoke. I could tell he was in trouble. So I had, that kind of period to prepare. So we spoke a lot, Mark and myself, and just really kept communicating and working together. And then, of course, the Sundogs thing, and I think Steve's record helped solidify things. Um, and it's just, I mean, it's unfortunate the circumstances that have been placed upon them.
Yeah.
With that being said, uh, they're doing the best that they can. And I think it's working out pretty well for them. I don't think anybody's got any complaints in terms of how things have panned out so far. And, we're living in the moment right now. What happens next year is another whole nother thing. Right now, we're just grinding out what's happening right now.
Yeah, I'm sure it's definitely tough. Does that put any kind of pressure on you, not really knowing what the future holds?
No, because I'm just, I'm okay. I'm okay with it. They have, accepted me, and the crowd has, the fans have accepted me. And uh, if it were to stop tomorrow, I'm okay with that. I'm super blessed, and I make every gig count, and every moment that we're together count, and I don't take any of that for granted. So the pressure of not knowing what's going to happen, uh, uh, although we have an idea of how things are going to work out, I, I don't feel any pressure. I just know that, while I'm here, I'm going to make the most out of everything.
Yeah. So when we're gonna go back now to when you first joined, that was in 2017.
Well,
How
no,
long? Well,
20 that
kinda.
I was just put on notice, and then it wasn't until May of 21 when we did our first show together. Yeah.
So when you were put on notice, do you mean it's like learn these songs in case we need you, or was it just
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
so how long did you actually spend learning the set?
Well, I learned, I think, 45 songs. I
Wow.
pretty much learned everything. Um, Again, I have a hard time not accepting challenges, and that was one of the challenges. Of course, I knew what the current set was at that time. Uh, Blow My Fuse was, a primary focus of the set list. So, and kind of knowing how to play some of those songs already, but when I really dove into the forensics and the DNA of Donnie Purnell's songwriting and trying to figure out some of the technical stuff that Ronnie was playing, as well as how the band was playing it live and how it had evolved over the years since the record. Some of the show type things that obviously aren't on the record. I mean, I worked on it pretty hard for probably, I don't know, 4 months. I might be a slow learner, I don't know, but it was about that point, and I was tracking it. I was recording everything on Pro Tools, and I was listening back and making sure I was doing the right parts or the right hand positions or whatever. So I'd say about 3 months, 4 months, and I was ready to roll. And I kept
And
fresh. I kept fresh during that time. I go back and rework on some of the stuff that they never play live, and including the things that are played every night, the Midnight Dynamites and the Blow My Fuses. I would just go back and keep fresh.
and so you did that. That was back in 2017. So what did you do then in the 4 years in between?
Well, I mean, my band Everrise was playing a lot,
Yeah.
and we were doing really well. And you know, in terms of with Kix, I just kept fresh. I just kept working on the parts and just, in my spare time. And but Everrise was playing quite a bit. And then of course the pandemic hit, and things got really weird there. But
Yes.
right now we're in good shape now.
So was that more of an independent process learning the songs, or were you asking, Brian and Ronnie questions about anything you had?
No, I pretty much purely independent. That and just seeing them for so many shows, so many years, I had an idea what was going on. It wasn't difficult. Uh, but, you know, the reality of it is in 2021, when Mark and the guys, had to come to make a decision. I was prepared as a guitar player, and I'm prepared as a musician. I've been doing this a long time. But I guess, you never really know until you step out there.
Yeah.
And again, I wasn't focusing on acceptance or anything like that. I was just making sure that I was helping the band sound better. So yeah, but I play a lot of guitar. I don't practice every day like I used to, but I worked hard on those songs.
So you mentioned it wasn't difficult. Was there any even like minor part of it that was, kind of got you, any solo or anything?
Not really. Um, I think, some of the fun solos to play are like Lie Like a Rug. That's a
Yeah.
fun solo. I kind of did a little bit of my own. Uh, the guitar solo in Scarlet Fever. Everybody knows the history of that record, and uh, Mike's playing on that particular song for that solo. But I was fortunate enough to get a little inside track on the re-recording of that guitar solo that Ronnie did at Brad's studio. So I implemented a little bit of the old solo and a little bit of the new solo into what I do live. That one took me probably the longest to try to figure out, not so much how to play it, but what to play,
Yeah.
and not to sound shreddy. I don't use a whammy bar in the traditional sense. But the original record, that there was tapping and all kinds of stuff on that particular song. But so and I play pretty much the same thing every night. I like it, and the fans seem to enjoy it. And so that's the only one that really it wasn't so difficult. The how to play it was, let's just try to make it sound sort of like the record, as well as the new version, Ronnie's latest version of that. So that was the only one that I spent more time than anything else.
Yeah, and so you mentioned earlier we talked about you kept it as close to the record as possible. How was it tough to get like the guitar tones down and everything?
No, no. I have there's a gentleman named Pete Cage, Cage Audio Amplifiers, locally here in Maryland. And he does a lot of work for me, as well as he did Ronnie's amps, and he does all my stuff currently. Help Brian with some of his stuff. So it's old Marshalls. I mean, it's just primitive rock and roll tube amps.
Yeah.
But to get some of those tones, no, because again, his signature tone, most of it comes from his hands. But there is a couple frequencies that are in his, you know, in the mid, where his guitar has that honky sound. You know, his 71 Les Paul has that sound. So I do have specific guitars and amplifiers that I just use in Kicks that are, you know, my sound isn't quite as abrasive, and I certainly not the same player, so it's going to be a little
Yeah.
different. But I try to emulate it as closely as possible, and that was just one of those fun challenges too, to just make my rig sound as close to classic rock, yeah, aggressive classic rock is what it is, and that's really easy to do. You just have to not overthink it.
Yeah, and so emulating it as close to the record as possible, was that a challenge that you put on yourself, or was that kind of what the guys said? We want you to come in and basically sound
Mm.
just
No,
like.
nobody said anything. Uh, I mean, I think it should be understood
Yeah,
when you get into a situation like that where um, I would hope that anybody else that would play, if it wasn't me and it was someone else, I would hope that their first priority was to you know do the record, its respect,
yeah.
and but no, never did I ever. No one ever told me how to sound, what to look like, what to play. It was just, do your thing, and I know you'll do well, and here we are.
So now this is something I'm curious about with like the choreography. You guys will obviously like all drop down to a knee. Was that something that you were told about, or was that just,
Nope.
oh, everyone else is doing it, I'll do it too?
Well, again, I'd seen him so many times, and there was only a couple little spots where
Yeah.
I wasn't 100% sure. But then again, again, seeing him so many times that I knew the show, and it's a lot of fun. And we pretty much hit it every time.
Yep. So as we wind down now, is there anything that you're looking forward to? Any specific gigs over the coming year that you want to get out there?
Well, let's see. Obviously Friday, the May 6th is M3.
Yep.
This weekend, I don't know when this airs, but this coming up weekend, we're and the Landis Theater in Vineland, New Jersey. Our
Yep.
good friend Don Jameson will be there. And the following day, that's a Friday. On Saturday, we're close to home here in Winchester, Virginia, at the Backseat Bar and Grill with our good friends, the Road Ducks, another local deal. We've got there's a couple big, obviously, the Monsters on the Mountain. That's in August 21st, I think it is, on
I think,
Sunday.
yeah, I'll see you guys at that one.
Yeah. Club XL is I think June 17th. That's a Friday. That is in Harrisburg, PA. That's a great venue. Kix just does so well in PA. And then we've got a whole flurry of things after that and in between. And we've got some good shows with our good friends. I think Vixen, Quiet Riot, uh, some of the big time entertainment roster.
Yeah.
Man, and all these people are great. The good folks in Slaughter, and Jimmy's healthy. So I'm constantly checking on him during the set since his heart attack. I'm really
Yeah.
making sure that he's doing well. And it was tough during that little stretch, getting John Allen from Stone Horses Child's Play, and Charm City Devils fill in for a gig. Our good friend Will Hunt from Slaughter, and
Yeah.
Evanescence. That was a tough little stretch. So now that Jimmy's good, I can breathe a little bit, and looking forward to playing Monsters on the Mountain with Jimmy, because he missed last year, and
Yeah.
we missed him terribly. But Will did a fantastic job.
Is there any Sundogs or Everrise gigs that are penciled in?
Everrise, yeah, there's a few dates coming up. I know September 9th, there's a big festival here in Boonesboro called the Interstate Rock Festival. And on September 9th, Everrise is playing. And on September 10th, Saturday night, Kix is headlining that night. So that'd be a good one. You'll have to just go to the Everrise Facebook page.
Yep.
And of course, the Kixband.com site has all the Kix dates, and that's being changed a little bit. Dates are being added quite a bit. Schedule's starting to really, really fill up.
Yeah.
And be sure to go to the is it Right Rock Sportswear Kix site for the merch. Sell the merch. We need gas money, that kind of thing.
Especially now, yeah.
Yeah. And Steve Zola record also.
All right, awesome. I'll post links to all of that down below. Thank you very much, sir, for taking the time to do this.
Thank you.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate it. Take care, man.